These are the sounds of prayer, a song about the goddess Lakshmi. Scenes like this are commonplace in India, where Hinduism is a prominent religion. I grew up seeing the worship of female goddesses, like Saraswati and Durga, goddesses that personify the scholar and the warrior. Because of this, there was never any question in my mind. Girls could be wise, girls could be strong, girls could be powerful. So why in India are so many women afraid to go out at night? Why are they told to dress a certain way? And why are they the target of frequent harassment, rape, and other crimes? The kind of which that makes an entire society feel that women need to be protected. To answer these questions, I spent 6 weeks in India, interviewing people from all walks of life. Empowerment was the word on nearly everyone's tongue. India has undergone major efforts to empower women over the past few years, and yet people still feel as though women need protection. I asked several women about what challenges they see women facing in India and their own thoughts and experiences with safety.
So domestic violence is a given. You have it in some form or the other. Most women face domestic violence, sexual harassment, public spaces, private spaces. That is of course there, and then you have the economic abuse, economic violence, and things like that. So there's a huge, how could you put it? A variety of crimes that are happening. Problems that women face, right from the time that a girl from her childhood right up to the time she dies. Women in India have always had various kinds of problems that they have to put up with.
We would walk to school, a group of girls, and then there would be a middle-aged, fat, podgy man on the way. Would be parked with a scooter on our way to school at this exact time, and he would flash us as we walked by, and we would just look away and walk off. So I think that that might have been one of my first experiences in that regard, where you understood that there were certain advantages being taken off the fact that you were young women.
In India, it's not only about the physical things that actually happen that men do, but sometimes even the way they just look at you is just really horrible. It's really, it's very, like the way they just look at you, like they're looking at you like you're an object, like you're something that they can check out. I think that's really bad. Yeah.
Because you're fighting this challenge every day. You're alert. There's no opportunity to be complacent. We did a feature on street harassment. When I was working the women's magazine. And all of us narrated examples of where we were harassed and sort of physically harassed also on the street. And every one of us had not one, but like multiple stories. And I was speaking to interns that we were doing another exercise in office. And what turned out to be like a 30-minute meeting went on for 1.5 hours because the stories just kept coming out. But are these girls sitting at home? No. They've come to Bangalore from all parts of India, and they're living in not even in hostels that are associated with college, but they make their own arrangements, and they go out at night. They we have our own network. Like when I'm going out in the night, I send the Uber, track the Uber thing to my friends, and they are like waiting for me until I reach home or somebody else is there. So I think we sort of find ways, and unfortunately sometimes there are very, very bad incidents, and then the government wakes up and then something, everybody is on alert for a few weeks, but then it goes back to normal. And I think the burden of security ultimately falls on each of us women or on our families, who are then waiting for us until we come home, and so I think it sort of makes us a little braver. We're not like so lala with our head in the clouds.
I know there's this whole thing about, like politicians and other important people saying, girls should dress appropriately, which I think is bullshit. Because honestly, okay, I'm just if a little skin is seen, okay, I understand here at least cleavage, fine. But what are my thighs gonna like show off? What is gonna like? What's the big deal, man? So I think that is really wrong. Covering up or not covered up, like there are like even women wearing saris have been raped. So what does that mean? It's not about covering up, but I think it's about just being, cautious and conscious about your surroundings, about people around you. If there's any like creep or somebody who's who's eyeing you, or like sometimes when you're going in the autos, these auto drivers just take you to like unknown locations, and at times like that there's no other go but to jump out of the auto and run. So safety measures in the sense, just be cautious about what's happening, what could happen to you, and carry like pepper spray or like a small something that you can help to protect yourself. I think it's very handy. It comes really handy. Because I party, sometimes I come back home at 2 and all in the night. Most of the times I'm with my friends, but even at 12 when I have traveled alone, touch wood, until today nothing's happened with me. When I travel alone in cabs and stuff, nothing has happened. Some men are really like, they're good, like they talk to you well, and then they make sure that you're feeling safe. They'll be like, take down my number, if you want you can call me, I'll come pick you up, and all. Like these cab drivers. But I don't trust any of them, because I don't know what's behind that door. So yeah.
So who would you trust then in those kinds of situations? Who do you trust?
Myself.
Yeah.
I don't think I can trust anybody that way.
When faced with harassment, it's completely understandable that women would want to find ways to protect themselves, including accepting protection from others. But this acceptance comes at a cost. It feels like an acknowledgement of helplessness or ceding the ability to take care of oneself.
It happens very subtly that a man could say, I'm protecting you, or even the act of chivalry, for example, started off probably as a good idea, but that could, sort of be hijacked into saying that, hey, you can't do this, or you can't go into combat, or you can't go into something that's considered the preserve of men. So
I had considered the possibility of protection being somewhat stifling for women, but how did men look at it? I wanted to get a man's opinion on the issue.
See, my role is in where I can, do as much as possible to talk to people who are still, I would say, narrow-minded about this. It starts with my family. So yeah, that's my role, because publicly I don't do much, but I do as much as with people I know, or speak up to people who try to, subjugate women in different ways. Maybe not too big, but I'm doing my bit to empower women, or give them the right to choose at least.
Choose what?
Choose whatever they want to do. Obviously, we will advise them if it is something bad, but it's their choice to go ahead, and that's what I support, because I believe everyone has to experience their own life in their own way, and they have to deal with the consequences. So all we can do is advise and say give precautions or caution them of how it is, and it's not specific to women or whatever. It's in general to anyone younger than me. So yeah.
I think this is a very interesting point. It seems to support the idea of chivalry being somewhat stifling and unsupportive of women's empowerment. He says women have the right to choose what they want to do and take control of their lives, but then he adds that men will obviously advise a woman if she is making a bad decision. This subconscious tendency to want to protect and help women seems to reflect a larger societal bias towards women making their own decisions. He also adds a line about how it's not just women. He would advise anyone younger than him the same way. Yet this, in and of itself, suggests that women are to be addressed at the same level as a younger person. I believe that the sentiments reflected in his words come from an ingrained societal bias, rather than any ill will towards women. This bias seems to affect everyone, regardless of how progressive their views are.
I come from a liberal, middle class, educated family. So you can imagine what it must be like in places where people are not educated or liberated or in thought. You know, you can be educated, you can be a PhD, but you can be regressive in your thoughts and your ways, and you can be perpetuating social inequality between men and women. So when I say education, I mean also a kind of a cognizance of the fact that, you know, human beings are human beings at the end of the day, and that liberties are similar between genders. People seem to think that there are things that girls shouldn't do or cannot do, that boys can do or are allowed to do, or there are ways that girls shouldn't be or cannot be that boys are allowed to be or are given liberty to be.
Because I didn't really have, I was never given the independence to do what I totally wanted to do, what I felt. It was all guarded by what society would think. You know, it was all about that. Like, what would, even just people, what would like our neighbors think if they see you going out with a boy? That is what it would be. Like, if even now, if like one of my guy friends drops me home, the question is not going to be like, you know, so who dropped you? They're going to be like, what is our neighbor going to think if you come with a guy at 11 o'clock in the night? He's my friend, he's my really good friend, he's ensuring that I reach home safely, and he's dropping me. But that's the question that I'll get to hear.
This attitude was unsurprising. Every society has rules about what men and women can and can't do. So I was expecting there to be some sort of societal standard for behavior that people would be expected to live by. One thing I was warned about quite a bit, and something I noticed myself, is that Indian society is a very community-based society. In a community-based society, the happiness of the entire community is a priority, and your life isn't just about keeping yourself happy, but also keeping the entire community happy. And for many people, that means going along with strictly held traditional values, because not adhering to them risks ostracization, which is especially painful in a society where your entire life revolves around the community. Knowing this, it's easy to understand why any change can have a large impact on society, and why so many people fall back on traditional roles. I decided to learn a bit more about some of these roles, to help me understand where they could be causing some conflict for those looking to step into a new, more modern role.
History has been very unkind to women, except, you know, there have been few examples. Even if you go down to the Manusmriti in India, where you had like a set of rules laid down that a woman should always be either under her father or under her husband or under her brother, you find that these are sort of dictated into or just sort of woven into religion or ideology, and they sort of continue. And why won't they? Because they are very convenient to a particular gender. You know,
The man is the head of the household, and you know, all powers, all the powers that are, whether it is the social power, whether it is economic power, whether it is you know, the personal power, sexual power, all this is with men. You know, it has always been with men. So that is why for a long time the role of the woman was only confined to the kitchen and the taking care of the kids. So you had women who were made to leave school very early, at a very early. Education was kind of was not really available for women. Only after a long time that girls were given the opportunity to study. If you look at Indian history and all that. So even there we had girls, the moment they gained puberty, they were made to discontinue school and married off. So you had them. By the time they were say 20, they had about 2 or 3 children. So that became their world. The kitchen and their children was only their world. Anything outside that they never knew of. You know, they didn't have control over any of the assets that the family owned, so there was no financial power. They had no say in how the finances in the family were managed, nothing. You know, they were just meant to cook, clean and look after the children. So that is why for a very long time, even though women wanted to come out of this situation, the dependency on the men was so huge, they didn't know how to come out, what to do, and most importantly, there was no economic power. They didn't have money or resources to kind of start life on their own or something like that, even if they did choose to come out of violent situations. So that is why, so that's the whole background as to why we still have that. It all stems from this gender bias and gender stereotypes role, those kind of things. So only now people are kind of waking up to roles and what women should do and what men should do. Those kind of things are now being questioned, are now being looked at. But although women are being empowered to kind of question this and there's a change in role, men still have to accept that. So that's where the problem comes up. So it's like once you're married, it's like there is a saying in Kannada in here in thing, that is, when you get married and you go to your husband's house, only your dead body can come out of that house, otherwise you are not supposed to be coming out of that house. So irrespective of anything that happens, you still have to put up with it and stay in your husband's house. So that's how it is, so this kind of things are, they told to women over and over again, so that is why they somehow or the other, they even now, there are so many marriages and relationships that we see that the girl can easily walk out of, because it's everything to do with trust, mutual trust, respect and things like that. If that basic things are not there in the relationship, then there's nothing. So in spite of that, they would still look at ways in which they can hold on to that relationship only because he happens to be her husband. So these are all, I'm not talking about women from the villages and things like that. No, actually, if you look at it that way, those women are a lot tougher. So this kind of thinking in girls itself needs to start changing. So they need to start believing in themselves that it's like you don't need you don't need a man in your life to be happy or to survive. You can do that on your own. If you need a man in your life, it is for companionship and for love and things like that. Those kind of, see, even in Indian society, as far as relationships and things, these kind of things are never discussed with the girl or with the boy. Nothing. It's like a given. You are born, you study, you finish your 10th standard, your school, then you have to do your high school, college, you have to get a job. The next thing you have to do is get married, and that's it. After you get married, your life is kind of over. You've achieved what you're supposed to achieve. So that's how, those are the kind of things that they've been taught. So girls also kind of tend to go along with it, and that's how they have a very tough time. On one hand, they know they have power, they know they are earning and all that. But on the other hand, this emotional bondages that they have, is that they need to break out of and come. Only then will you actually see them empowered.
Basically, the problem is, from historical times, the men have been dominating in India, and they were the providers for the family, and women used to only manage the home. They were only homemakers. So women always had that problem with men, that if they do anything, they will leave them and go. So that respect they always had for the men. Men also had that respect for the women. Generally, there were no problems earlier at all. Nowadays only lot of problems have come up.
problems? Why are they?
The problem is, one is women have become more independent now. They are self-thinking. They want to manage themselves. So that has brought some conflicts with the men. So they are no more, many of the women are no more dependent on the men. They say they can manage themselves. They want to lead their own lives. The problem of conflict starts there because they are no more dependent. Many women, not all people, many women are no more dependent on the men. They want to lead their own lives. So it is no more like a relationship, it is more like a friendship. You are my friend, I am your friend.
So how do men feel about that change then? How do men feel about that change?
Men are finding it a little difficult to take that change. That is the whole problem now.
I think at this point it would be helpful to elaborate a bit on why many of these changes are occurring. India previously had a socialist economic model, meaning many people had access to education, but job opportunities were limited. This economic model also limited people's material aspirations. There wasn't a lot to own, so families were content with only having one income, traditionally supplied by the man of the household. However, in 1991, India adopted a free market economy. This meant that job opportunities opened up, and with it, the aspirations of future generations. Multinational corporations began setting up shops and selling to customers. Suddenly, one income wasn't enough, and everyone had dreams of living a better life. Women began joining the workforce, and with this change came a whole host of problems.
I think a lot of it starts with financial independence. I think that's the first thing that gives a woman a sense of power, because I think that is the only thing that's holding a lot of women back from, coming out of bad marriages and abusive husbands, abusive relationships, of troubles that they may have, within their family. So financial independence, I would say, is the first thing that would make a woman just sort of even imagine that she can do it alone, go it alone. And I think also some form of employment, because that, I think it's not just to earn money, but also it just gives you a sense of purpose and extreme confidence that somehow that you're validated beyond your home, that your boss or your colleagues understand and listen and value your opinion at the workplace. I think those are huge triggers to make a woman feel genuinely empowered. So I think these two are, I think, the stepping stones, and then it just has like a cascading effect after that.
When women began working outside of the house, an unprecedented question arose. Who would fulfill their traditional responsibilities? Who would look after the house and the children? How did this change the dynamic between a husband and a wife? To understand this, I visited Sneha, an organization that provides family counseling and conflict resolution.
We are a group of 30-35 volunteers. We are Sneha Society for Counseling, and we do counseling for people who come to us, and we provide emotional support to them.
Can you explain a bit about some of the cases you've
Of late, we are getting a lot of cases relating to relationship issues. It could be marital or relationships at workplace relationships, work stress.
In India, for example, men really aren't used to doing any kind of work in the house. They really are not used to it. I mean, starting from their cup of coffee in the morning, everything is given to them. I mean, from the kitchen, it's just given to them the way they want it, and so on. Right? Now, when you're a working person, it's very difficult. So you need to help in the kitchen. These realizations are coming in. And you need to realize that the girl also has aspirations, because each one of them wants to get married to an educated girl, because a double income has become a must. Gone are the days when only one person could support a family. Till now, till recent years, let me not say now, till recent years, society was such that the man's place was at work and the woman's place was at home. So not many questions were asked. When a woman didn't work, yes, she had to look after her children, that was it. But now, all young girls are very well educated. And again, it's a matter of aspirations. Whereas the male population, the thinking in the male population may not have changed as much as it has amongst the female population.
Last 40 years, when it comes to when we were educated, there was no discrimination in my school days, college days, that I got the same education as my brother or as my other boyfriend. So when both of us have learned the same, studied the same, then I thought I also should join job and build my career, which will bring me good salary. So the idea of earning, woman as going to office and earning, probably came with our no discrimination in education. They were given the equal opportunity even as a girl, which was not so probably to my mother or to my grandmother. They were not allowed to go to school. But when we were given the same opportunity, naturally I thought I should also join job, but at the same time, a role of mother I only have to do. A father cannot do a role of a mother. So I have to, starting from the breastfeed to biologically also, mother plays an important role to the kids. So kids need mother more, especially initial days. So role of mother in especially Indian culture and practices what India has been following for years is important, and that's where the idea of mother taking care of children is there since years, thousands of years in India. So that, along with the modern English present education, literally make us do multitasking.
ಅಕ್ಕ
ಹೆಂಗಸರು ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮನೆ ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತಾ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಹೊರಗೋಗಿ ದುಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ?
ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಆಚೆ ಕಡೆನೂ ದುಡಿಬೇಕು.
ಗಂಡಸರು
ಅವ್ರು ಎರಡು ಕಡೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಕ್ಕ.
ಇವಾಗ ಹೆಂಗಸರು ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋಗಿ ದುಡಿಯೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಗಂಡಸರು ಮನೆ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿ ಹಂಚ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾ?
ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು ಆಚೆ ಕಡೆ ದುಡಿದ್ರೆ ಗಂಡಸರು ಮನೆ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿ. ಅದೇ ಹೆಂಗ ಅವರು ದುಡಿಬೇಕಲ್ಲಕ್ಕ.
ಅವರು ದುಡಿಬೇಕು, ಆದ್ರೆ ನೀವ್ ಮನೆಗ್ ಬಂದ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ನೀವು ದುಡಿತೀರಾ?
ನಾವು ದುಡಿಬೇಕು.
ಅವ್ರ ಅವಾಗ ಸುಮ್ನೆ ಕೂತಿರ್ಬೇಕು.
ಅವ್ರು ಕೂಡ್ಬಾರ್ದು, ಆದ್ರೆ ಇರೋದ ಹಂಗೆಲ್ಲ. ಹೌದಿಲ್ಲಕ್ಕ? ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಕಷ್ಟ ಹೆಂಗಸರಿಗೆ, ಗಂಡಸರಿಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ.
ಅವ್ರು ಕೂಡ್ಬಾರ್ದು, ಬಟ್ ಅವ್ರು ಇರೋದೇ ಹಾಗೆ.
ಇರೋದೇ ಹಾಗೆ.
ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾ? ಅವ್ರು
ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಕ್ಕ. ಅದು ಬುದ್ಧಿವಂತರಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ. ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕಡೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೆಂಗಸ್ರೇ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಊಟ ಕೂಡ ಬಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ನಾವು, ಆ ಥರ ಹಳ್ಳಿ ಕಡೆ. ಇಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಮೂಲಿಯಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಸಿಟಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಕ್ಕ, ಅಡುಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಡೆ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ, ಏನು ಕೆಲಸ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಕೆಲಸ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೆಂಗಸ್ರೇ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಊಟ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ಕೇಳಲ್ಲ, ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು.
We've, our parents have put us through college. Like, they've given us equal opportunities to education, and we can't fathom why when we go to a corporate workspace that we are not getting those same advantages that a man would, or like equal pay, or even in homes. Why do we become child rearers and keepers of what's like, is the fridge looking healthy or is the home looking spick and span, whereas the man can only have laser focus on his career. So I think that the thing is that women have changed, women are changing faster, much more at a quicker pace than men. men just seem to have stagnated and plateaued. Some men, but I think that's the problem.
Women entering the workforce also introduced a new dimension in the interaction between men and women. Men and women now had to work together and interact socially outside a familial setting. This may not seem like a big deal, but for a society that has not enabled these interactions from an early age, it certainly is challenging.
It's like situations in, even in colleges and all, where, actually, even in schools and colleges, they won't make, a boy sit next to a girl or those kind of things. This discrimination is everywhere. Should be removed. People, students should get proper time or space where they could, mingle with girls also.
So when you said they separate girls and boys, who is they?
Teachers.
The teachers. Okay. So the teachers are doing this in schools.
Yeah.
Okay. So because of that they're separated in the classroom, do you think that they say separated outside of the classroom as well?
Yeah, actually that affects also. To be frank, when I was in PU, there was a separation and I don't even know half of the names of high class girls. There is a situation. Girls are it's every parents now are they don't expect their children to go to co-ed schools. They only send to only for girls and only for boys, that kind of thing. That's actually because of the fear.
Yeah, do you think that impacts how they how girls and guys see the other gender then, if they're going to separate schools?
Yeah, there is actually, there won't be a proper exposure about how, other boys are, and even for the boys, how girls behave or something, how, there will be a lack of, how to, respect women in that sense.
This separation can lead to problems in the workplace. Like he said, men and women often haven't had enough exposure to each other. Even in co-ed schools where they receive education together, boys and girls are subject to boundaries that limit the interactions between them. Thus, an opportunity for an early understanding of the opposite gender seems to have been lost. Women entering the workplace wasn't the only source of conflict brought on by the changing economy. A huge migration from rural to urban areas, where new corporations were hiring both men and women, saw a clash between traditional rural values and newer urban ones.
ಓಪನ್ ಅಪ್ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತಾರೆ, ಬಟ್ ತುಂಬ ಇರಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಆ ಥರ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಏನು ಥರಲ್ಲೇ ಆದರೂ ಒಂದು ಇದಿರಬೇಕು. ಅವಾಗಲೂ ಹುಡುಗರಿಗೂ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಒಂದು ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. ಅವರೇ ಸರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಹುಡುಗರು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊತಾರೆ. ಕೆಲವೊಬ್ರು ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ಒಂದು ಬಸ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇಷ್ಟ ಮಂದಿದ್ದು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಈಗ ಹುಡುಗ ಹಳ್ಳಿ ಕಡೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಜೀವನ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರು ಬಸ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತಾಗ ಈಗಿನ ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷ್ನಲ್ ಹುಡುಗಿರು ಅವ್ರು ಮಾತಾಡೋ ರೀತಿ ಅವ್ರು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಅವ್ರಿಗೇನು ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಹುಡುಗಿರು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ತುಂಬ ಇದಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನೋಡಿ ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿ ಮೇಯ್ನ್ ಬೇಕು. ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷ್ನಲ್ ಆದರೂ ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು, ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ. ಅದು ಬೆಟರ್, ಅದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬೆಲೆ ಇದಾಗುತ್ತೆ.
See, most times now when I'm with my friends, I don't have to worry about it. Okay, but I think most of such cases happen with men who are not exactly educated about it enough, who don't have the proper access to good education and stuff like that. Mostly rural sites. I'm not saying only rural sites, but even if you see now in Bangalore, in the heart of the city, you don't see a lot of rapes happening. So I think it's about these places where men are not evolved, not evolved. I would like to say, just educated enough, or haven't had the chance to interact with girls from a young age.
Big changes are not restricted to urban centers. Rural India has also seen its fair share of economic and social change. Lepakshi is a small temple town a couple hours outside of Bengaluru. I have always felt drawn to the town, visiting it many times over the years. The 600-year-old temple, the people, and the local school seem to present the perfect example of the changes occurring in India today. In Lepakshi, I had a chance to sit down with some women who had formed a cooperative to provide economic opportunities for women.
ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ತವ್ರ ಮನೆ 10th ವರೆಗೂ ಓದಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇನ್ನು ಸಾಕಂತ ನಮ್ಮ ತಾಯಿ ತಂದೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ, ನೀನು ಓದ್ಕೊಂಬ ಅಂದರು. ಆದರೆ ನಾನೇ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ನೋಡಬೇಕು, ಎಂಜಾಯ್ಗಿರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಬ್ಯಾಡ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಒದರಿಸಿದೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನನಗೆ ಲೇಪಾಕ್ಷಿ ಹತ್ರ ಕುರ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ, ಮದುವೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಆದರೆ ನಾವು ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ಸ್, ನಾನು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಮ್ಮ ಅವರು ತಾಯಿ ಹೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ತಿಂತ ಆಯ್ದ ಇರೋದು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದರೆ ಭಾರಿ ಕಷ್ಟ, ಸೇದ್ದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಹಸುನು ಮಿಲ್ಕ್ ಇದು ಕೆಲಸ ಇದ್ರು. ಆದರೆ ನಾವು ಅವಾಗ ಅಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದು, ನಾನು ಹೆಂಗೋ ಆಯ್ಗ ಇದ್ದಿಲ್ಲಲ್ಲ, ಬಂದು ಈ ವ್ಯವಸಾಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೆ ಅಂತ 2 ವರ್ಷ ನಾವು ಬಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಏನನ್ನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಲ್ಲ, ಏನೋ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ನಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಫೂರ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಇಬ್ಬರಲ್ಲ, ನಾನೊಬ್ಬರು 10th. ಆವಾಗ 10th ಅಂದರೆ ನಾನೊಬ್ಬನೇ ಇರೋದು. ಅಂತೆ ತವ್ರ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದು ಏನಂತಾರೆ ನಾವೊಬ್ಬರೇ ಇರೋದು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಬಂದು ಏನಾದರೂ ಈ ಹೆಂಗಸರಿಗೆ ಏನೋ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಯಾವಾಗ ನೋಡಿದ್ರು ಕೆಲಸ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ವಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಸಾರೆ ಅಮೌಂಟು ಕೆಲ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಯಜಮಾನ್ ಹತ್ರ ಅಮೌಂಟು ಹೆಂಗಸ್ರಲ್ಲ ಇಸ್ಕೊಂಡದ್ದು. ಯಜಮಾನ್ರು ಬಂದರು, ಅವ್ರ ತಂದನ ಬರ್ತಾನ ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದು ಡಬ್ಬು ಇಸ್ಕೊಂಡವ್ರು. ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಂತೆ. ಒಂದು ಈ ಲೇಪಾಕ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾತ್ರೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ದುರ್ಗಮ್ಮ ಜಾತ್ರೆಗೆ ಅವರು ಸಂವತ್ಸರವರೆಗೂ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡದ್ದು 10 ರೂಪಾಯಿ, 20 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಆವಾಗ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಅವರು. ಏನು ಇಂಥ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ನಾವು ಹಿಂದಿನ ನಾವೇ ಇದೇನೋ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರಿಗಂತ ಹೇಳ್ದು ನಾವು ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ, ಒಂದಾಗಿರೋಣ ನಾವದು ಅಂತ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು 5 ರೂಪಾಯಿದು ನಾವು ನೆಲಕ್ಕೆ పొదుపు ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು పొదుపు ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಆವಾಗ ಸಂಘ ಒಂದು ಅಂತ 10 ಜನ ಕಲಸಿ ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಹೋಗೋ ಸಂಘ ಮಾತ್ರ ಏರ್ಪಡ್ದು. ಆವಾಗ 3 ಸಂಘ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. 3 ಸಂಘದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಈಗ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾವು 2 ಸಂವತ್ಸರ ಈ CC ಅಂತ ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಟರ್ ಇದ್ದಾರಲ್ಲ, ಇಂಥ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಇರ್ತು. ಮೇಡಮ್ ನಾವು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಸಂಘ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಏನನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ನಮ್ಮ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಬರಬೇಕು. ಮನೆದವರು ಯಜಮಾನ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು, ನಾವು ಹೋಗೋದಂటే ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೀಯ, ಕೆಲ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಾತು ಇನ್ಬಾರ್ದು ನೀವು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಮಗೆ ఇది చేస్తుంది మనకి అంటే పని పోకుండా చేస్తుంది, ఇంట్లో పని చేసుకోకుండా పోతుంది. ఆమె మాట్లాడినద్దండి అని చెప్పి అప్పుడు మా పనికి వచ్చే వాళ్ళే మా దగ్గర ఉండే వాళ్ళే సరేలే చేద్దామని చేస్తాం. చేస్తే 10 మందికి కలిసి 15,000 లోన్ వచ్చింది మాకు గవర్నమెంట్ నుండి. 15,000 లోన్లో మేము మనిషికి 500-500 రూపాయలు లోన్ తీసుకున్నాం. లోన్ తీసుకొని అది అప్పుడు మేము వాళ్ళ నెలకి 100 రూపాయలు అట్లా కట్టిన తర్వాత ఇది ఏదో బాగుంది అని చెప్పేసి మళ్ళీ తిరిగి ఒక్క సంఘం నుండి ఇప్పటికి 14 సంఘాలు అయినాయి. 14 సంఘాలకి రాసే బుక్ కీపర్స్ లేరు, రాసేకి పుస్తక నిర్వహణ చేసేకి లేదు. లేకపోతే ఎవరో ఒకరు వెళ్ళారు కదా పుస్తక నిర్వహణ. అక్కడ ట్రైనింగ్ ఇచ్చినారు మాకు ఫ్రీగానే ట్రైనింగ్ పోండి అంటే లేదు, మేము ఆడవాళ్ళు బయటికి పోలేము, మేము అట్లా పోము, ఈమె మాట వినద్దండి, బయటికి వెళ్ళలేమని. అయినా కూడా ధైర్యంగా నేను ఒక్కదాన్ని ఊళ్ళో నేను ఇంకొక ಇದ್ರೆ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ನಿರ್ವಹಣೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಹಿಂದೂಪುರದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದೆ. ಅವಾಗ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ತವ್ರ ಮನೆ తీసుకున్నా రాసేకి. ట్రైనింగ్ అయిన తర్వాత నా బంధు ఈ కుర్లపల్లిದಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ 17 సంఘాలు ఉన్నాయి. ఇప్పుడు 15,000 నుండి ఇప్పుడు ఒక్కొక్క సంఘం 6 లక్షలు లోన్ తీసుకుంటాము, కడతా ఉన్నాము. బాగా బెనిఫిట్. నేనైతే అప్పుడు 10th వదిలేసినాను, మళ్ళీ ఇక్కడ వచ్చిన తర్వాత డిగ్రీ చేసినాను, డిగ్రీ కట్టినాను, ఇంటర్మీడియట్ కట్టినాను. ఎవరైనా చదువుకుంటే పిల్లలు ఉన్నా కూడా వాళ్ళు స్కూల్కి పోకుంటే కూడా నువ్వు ఎందుకు ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಗೆ వెళ్ళండి పనికి వచ్చేవాళ్ళు ఎవರು ಚದುವುಕೊಂಡೆ
ಆದರೂ ನಮ್ಮಪ್ಪ ಓದಬೇಕು ನೀನು ಓದಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದ. ನಾನು ಟೌನ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು, ನಂದು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಟೌನ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಇತ್ತಲ್ವಾ, ಆವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮಪ್ಪ ಹೇಳ್ತು ನೀನು ಹುಡುಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಹುಡುಗ ಥರ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಹುಡುಗ ಥರ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಅವಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅವರೇ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಭಯ ಬೀಳ್ತಾರೆ. ನೀನು ಹುಡುಗಿ ಅಂತ ಭಯ ಬೀಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಭಯ ಬೀಳ್ತಾರೆ. ನೀನು ಹುಡುಗ ಥರ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಹಂಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಅವರೇ ಭಯ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನೀನು ಏನು ಅನ್ನಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಧೈರ್ಯ ಹೇಳಿ. నాకైతే మా అక్క చెల్లెలు, నా అక్క చెల్లెలు వాళ్ళు మాత్రం నాకు ఫుల్ సపోర్టు. మా ఆయన కూడా ఇప్పుడు కానీ వద్దు ఈ పని వద్దు నువ్వు పోవద్దు అనే చెప్తారు.
It was really inspiring to see how these women were helping each other thrive. While urban migration had created conflict in some areas, it also provided opportunities for women. I spoke with 3 women to understand their past experiences and expectations for the future.
ಅಮ್ಮ ಮಾತ್ರ ಓದಲಿ, ನನ್ನ ಮಗಳ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲೇ ತೋಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಿದ್ರು. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಎಷ್ಟು ಓದಿದ್ರು ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ನಮ್ಮ ಮಂದಿಗೆ ಕಷ್ಟ, ಏನಾದರೂ ಕೆಲಸ ಹತ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಕಷ್ಟ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ, ಮದುವೆ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡೋದು ವಾಸಿ ಅಂತ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜನ ಅಂತಿದ್ರು. ನಮ್ಮ ಅಮ್ಮ ಮಾತ್ರ ಓದಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, ಇವಳಿಗೆ ದುಡಿಯೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ರು. ಇವ್ರ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಬರೋದು ಕಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ತಗಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಮಾಡಮ್ಮ ಅಂದರು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ, ಗಂಡನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೇ ಬೇಡ ಬಿಡ ಅಂತ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಟೆನ್ಷನ್ಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ.
ನಿನ್ನ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ನಿಂಗೆ ಏನು ಆಸೆ ಇದೆ, ಅವ್ರು ಹೆಂಗಿರಬೇಕು, ನಿನ್ನ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೂ ನಿನ್ನ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೂ ಏನು ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಇರಬೇಕು?
ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನ ಥರ ಅವ್ರ ಜೀವನ ಬೇಡಕ್ಕ, ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಅವಿ ಜೀವನ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಇದು ಕಾರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಗೆ ಚಲೋ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಓದಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, ಅವ್ರೊಂದು ಮಟ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಬೆಳೀಲಿ, ನಮ್ಮ ಥರ ಬೇಡ ಅವ್ರು. ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೆಲಸ ನಮಗೆ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಅವ್ರು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಓದ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಆಸೆ.
ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೀರಾ?
4ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ನನಗೆ 3 ಜನ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 2 ಜನ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು, ಟ್ವಿನ್ಸು, ಒಬ್ಬ ಮಗ. ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳಿಬ್ಬರು PUC ಓದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಮಗ 8ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್.
ಇದು ಹೆಂಗಸಾಗಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಾರ ಚಾಲೆಂಜಸ್, ಕಷ್ಟಗಳು ಇದು ಇಂಡಿಯಾಲಿ ಹೆಂಗಸಾಗಿರೋದಕ್ಕೆ
ಇಲ್ಲ, ನನಗೆ ನಾನು ಹೆಣ್ಮಗಳು ಅಂತ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಫೀಲ್ ಇತ್ತು. ನಾನು 3 ಜನ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಸಾಕೊಂಡು ಕಷ್ಟ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ. ಅದು ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ನಾನು ಇವಾಗ ನಾನು ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ಥರ ನನ್ನ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆ ಥರ ಏನು ಚಾಲೆಂಜ್ ಆಗೇ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಯಾರ ಸಪೋರ್ಟು ಇಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ, ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡನ ಸಪೋರ್ಟು ಅವ್ರ ಸಪೋರ್ಟು ತೊಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ದುಡಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ನನ್ನ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಸಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.
ನಿನ್ನ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳಿಗೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೂ ನಿನ್ನ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೂ ನಿಂಗೆ ಏನು ಬೇಕು?
ನನ್ನ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಜೀವನ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರಬೇಕು, ನನ್ನ ಥರ ನನ್ನ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಕಷ್ಟಪಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಓದಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಕೊಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, ಅವ್ರ ಲೈಫಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಸೆಟ್ಲ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಅವ್ರ ಕಾಲ ಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರು ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನನ್ನ ಆಸೆ.
ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ
ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೆ ಸಂಸಾರದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿ, ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಇದ್ದೀರಾ?
ಹಸ್ಬೆಂಡ್ ಬಂದು ಪೇಂಟ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಪೇಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಮಗಳು ಬಂದು BCom ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಇಯರು, ಮಗ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್ BCom, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್ PU
11th ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್.
ನಾನು ಓದಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದ್ರೂ ಮಕ್ಳ ಹತ್ರ ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಮಂಥವ್ರು ಜನ ಬಂದವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡೋದನ್ನ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡೋದಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ.
ಸೊ ನೀವು ಕೆಲಸನೂ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತಾ?
ಕಷ್ಟ ಅನಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆ ಮಕ್ಳು ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಈಗ ನನ್ನ ಮಗಳು ಇಷ್ಟು ಓದಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಾನು ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟಿರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಬೇಡ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನನ್ನ ಮಗಳು ಓದಲ್ಲ, ನನ್ನ ಥರನೇ ಈ ಥರ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ.
ಮುಂದೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಆಸೆ ಇದೆ, ಏನಾಗಬೇಕು?
ನನ್ನ ಮಗಳು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಓದಿ ಹೊರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಸಂತೋಷ ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಮಗನೂ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಇಬ್ಬರು ಒಂದೇ ಥರ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಅವನಿಗೂ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಅವನಿಷ್ಟ, ಅವ್ನು ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ, ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇರಲಿ, ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಆಸೆ ಇದೆ. ಅದು ಆಸೆ ಬಂದರೆ ದೇವ್ರನ್ನ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಆಸೆ ನಿರಾಸೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ.
I think what struck me most about these women is that some of them never had the opportunity to get educated, but they desperately want that for their children. In nearly all of my interviews, I heard mothers' stories about how their mothers wanted better for them, and how they now want better for their children. All of their children. The new economic change brings freedom to a lot of women, but these new freedoms are coming at a cost.
I think the topmost thing that concerns women is safety and security, because there's been a lot. I think we're seeing that more because we are out and about. A lot of women are working today, and they keep late hours. So safety becomes a huge issue, and I think also the fact that they're, you can just see the male gaze on the women when you're out in the street. Women are much bolder. They're much more. They are accepting a certain agency for themselves in the way they dress, in the way they speak, in the way they simply carry themselves. I think the idea of the shy Indian woman is fast fading. So you would find girls walking on the road with their head held high. Probably if a man looks at her, she would lock gazes with him, probably challenging him as to, hey, why are you looking at me like this? That wouldn't have happened many years ago, and I think that is something that men cannot handle.
That's how the society would, it's changed now. Now I think the majority of the girls are free-spirited, and girls have always been free-spirited, right? It's always the external or the society that kind of bogs you down and says, no, this is the way they condition you into things. They condition you into being a certain way, walk a certain way, don't look up. I've been told that. Like my teachers in school told me not to look up and walk. So for the longest time, I actually looked down. I said, okay, I'm doing something wrong. I have to be looking down, right? These kind of conditions are imposed on women here, but I think that to a very large extent has changed. Now girls are a lot more stronger. I won't say feminist, but they are more empowered.
Women are already empowered. It's a sentiment I've heard quite a bit since I've started this project. But then why is security still a concern? As far as I've seen, women are strong, independent, and open about the problems they're facing. So why are they still facing them?
Women are getting educated today. There is a lot more awareness about what's happening and things like that. But even now, if you look at it, when we talk about protection and we talk about safety, we are always talking to women about it. We are not talking to men about what their responsibility is when it comes to protecting women and girls. So we still have a long way to go.
Every conversation about women and empowerment and progress must involve a man, and this is why I like Sheryl Sandberg's idea of leaning in, right? You have to bring in men. Like, I've gone to so many discussions for Women's Day where the panel is only women and the audience is women, so it's like an echo chamber, right? We're talking to women, we're talking about our issues, but who's listening? Somebody's got to listen, and gender is not, if it's a gender issue, it has to be addressed by not just man and women, and now we have so many other genders that we speak about. So getting everybody involved in this is of utmost importance.
What these two women said is definitely important. Including men in the conversation about women's protection and women's empowerment can help these efforts greatly. I saw these effects when I visited a coffee plantation a few hours outside of Bengaluru. I met the owner, who was using his position as an employer to educate his workforce and bring about change.
We don't discriminate on gender in terms of the wage that we pay, at least not in agricultural practices, not on plantations. But that discrimination was there initially when I've been on the estate since 1996. When I came, there was a small discrimination there. I did away with that. So my ladies and my gents got the same amount of pay. The next rule that I was telling you about was not raising your hand on a lady, not hitting the lady at all. That is one rule that I've managed to implement. Education wise, so there was a discrimination here: send the boys to school, keep the girls behind at home in our labor class. So I made it like a law or a rule that every single child would go to school, Not successful all the time, not successful at the first shot. I had labor leaving me and going because I was trying to implement these things. The government also helped out. The government came out with this brilliant scheme, especially for children. There's this midday meal scheme that goes on in India now. So every single rural school in India, all the children are given a good hot, piping hot midday meal which is freshly cooked, pretty nutritious. So now most of our labor do send our children to school anyway, all their children to school.
When men are taught how to respect women, amazing things can happen. However, while this tactic of involving men in discussions of female empowerment definitely addresses the symptoms of the problem, it doesn't get at the core reason why they occur. I think the best illustration of this came from my conversation with a young man about gender roles. When it came to describing a woman's role, he gave me the established definition of an empowered woman: financially independent, someone who makes her own choices. But when it came to a man's gender role,
manhood. I mean, I don't really know what manhood. Protect the people you love, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, nowadays, then feminists will say girls can protect themselves. So I don't know what to say.
he stuttered when he gave me his definition. He didn't know what to say. In the end, the only characteristic that came to mind was protector. To be frank, a woman's gender role has changed, but a man's has not. Many men struggle to define what it means to be a man in a society with empowered women. And such is the curse of having gender roles. They are always built with another gender in mind to fill the gaps. They are designed to be what the other isn't. But that doesn't work anymore. Empowered women have shown that traditional roles are insufficient in the modern world. But what about men? In the struggle to find an identity in a changing world, it is easy for men to relapse to traditional roles. They try to treat women as they always have, and act out when they find they can no longer do so. They use words like protector or provider to define their role, despite acknowledging that those labels don't fit anymore. The dynamics of power have changed. Women have power, but that doesn't mean men can't anymore. Giving men the opportunity to discover this, and better yet, the ability to explore a new sense of identity, might be the beginning of a solution to many of the problems women face in India. It's just a matter of getting men to see that the women around them are just as strong as the goddesses they pray to, and that's not something to be afraid of.